Hey everyone, hope you're doing well tonight. Glad you are here, and I wanted to go ahead and welcome you. Welcome to our financial education series, and this is how we're going to look at how we can use TVM, or time value of money, to build wealth. My name is Todd, and look, if you're new here, welcome. This channel is dedicated to helping you build businesses that can make you more money, give you more time to enjoy life the way that you want. I'm really glad you guys are here tonight. And tonight we're going to focus on looking at how you can leverage the data from your financial calculator, that good old financial calculator. Maybe you had it in college that you used, to build true wealth. And I'm going to show you how I use this information, this data, to replace my income in 17 months and to retire, and how you can apply those same principles so that you can do the same thing. So if you're here, tell me in the chat. I like to see who all is here. I enjoy seeing everybody's names. So if you're in the chat, just give me a hello so I know that you're here. And let's get going with tonight's session. In 2015, I was sitting in my office in the Hertz Corporation. I worked for that rental car company, the Hertz Corporation, and I worked as a vice president. And I was sitting there, and I was extremely worried about my job being eliminated, because just a few months before this, the old CEO had resigned. And what prompted him to resign was the fact that Jim Cramer from CNBC, this guy right here, Jim Cramer put this CEO on the wall of shame. Like literally the wall of shame. It was terrible. 2 weeks after he ended up on the wall of shame, guess what happened? He resigned for personal reasons. Resigned for personal reasons. And the problem is that because I was a VP, the new CEO was going to bring in his own executive team. And I was terrified, because beyond that, I had just moved my family to this new city. We picked up the kids, bought a new house, and moved them. I began working tirelessly to increase my real estate holdings. I'm the type of guy that I never really fit into corporate America. Like, I did good. I rose in the ranks like you're supposed to, but I always felt like there was something else for me. I don't know if you can relate to that or not, but I always felt like, man, maybe I should have my own business. And, I struggled with this whole thing. I did well in corporate America, but I always wanted my own thing. And I really saw this opportunity. This was an opportunity to escape. If I could just manage some way to build some passive income or some income through real estate investing, I knew I could do it, but it was really a risk, because like I said, I had just bought a new house. I literally took my kids out of school and moved them across the state of Florida. And I'm looking at my family and I'm going, geez, we cannot move for a second time in just a matter of months. And I knew that there were no other replacement jobs for me around there. I had to replace my income and do it fast. The problem that I experienced, though, was this, and maybe you can relate to this, and if so, tell me in the chat, but real estate investing just in general takes a lot of capital. You have to have the capital to go put on down payments, and there are ways that you can do it with no money down, and that just wasn't in my DNA. To go and to say, hey, I'll buy this with no money down, you have to ask for things, and it's just not here. It's just not in my heart. I couldn't do it. It was a mental block. Some people are great at it. I'm not one of them. And the other thing I'm not really great at, if you will, is to go raise money. I talked to this guy and he said, oh man, all you got to do is go talk to like your local real estate investor association meeting and, just find a deal and go there and they will help you. Well, I went to one of those meetings during this time of transition. I went to this meeting, and I kid you not, I drove to the place, to the RIA meeting, the Real Estate Investor Association meeting. I drove there. This is so embarrassing to say. I went inside, and the crowd that was there just was like terrifying to me. I couldn't imagine like going to any of these people and start talking to them about, hey, yeah, I'm trying to raise some money and I don't really know what I'm doing, but can I raise some money? That's not who I am either. I looked at the room, I turned around and I walked to my car. I couldn't do it. So I knew, like, if I was going to make this happen, I had to bootstrap my business. And I committed that I was only going to spend $10,000 or so. That's all I had in this little company that I had created. I only had a little bit of money to get going. So now the thought of, okay, well, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to build this real estate empire just seemed crazy, but I knew I had to bootstrap it. So basically what I did was I really sat down and started thinking about, okay, how can I use the data that I have, this financial calculator, to really build this wealth long term so that I don't have to go ask somebody to borrow money, and I don't have to go and beg someone to give me a property with zero down, and I don't have to feel in ways that I don't want to feel. And hopefully you can relate to that as well. So what I did was I went out and, like I said, I started with $12,300 and I went out and I bought 5 properties. These are land properties. I do land investing, and these properties aren't really that expensive. But the nice thing is I could sell them on owner financing and generate some cash flow that way. So I went out and I bought my first property. It was a 40-acre property in northern Nevada. I paid $4,000 for the property. And I was scared to death that I was going to end up getting stuck with this thing. Like, I'd never even heard of this county before. I remember telling my dad about this property. Like, I'm showing him what I'm doing. And he says, oh man, that doesn't look too good. We're looking at the satellite images. And I'm like, no, it's going to be okay, Dad. It's going to be okay. He's like, oh, I don't know about that. It did turn out okay. But see, all of this stuff, all of this mental head trash, for lack of a better word, basically really got me thinking, like, I just got to get rid of this thing. So I went out and I found somebody that would buy the property from me for $100 down and $100 a month for 100 months. And what I want to do is I want to show you here real fast. I want to show you how I use the financial calculator to determine my yield, okay? Because ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize our yield. As an investor, we're always judging one investment against the other. And the financial calculator is my friend in this aspect. And you'll see tonight how there's different ways that we can leverage this financial calculator to really dial in on this investment or these scenarios. And we can do it very fast on the fly. But let's go and let's look at this, this first property, for example, and let's look at this. So here's my financial calculator. This is the iPhone app. This is on an iPad right now, but this app is called the 10BII. And you can get any of these financial calculators. I really like this one. I have this one on my iPad, on my cell phone. I have access to one of these. It's always nearby me, but if you'll get the gist of this, I have a financial calculator around me all the time because I think it adds just such value to the conversations that you can have about your investments and the way that you think. All right, $4,000 is what I put on that property. And for my financial calculator, like I'm telling you, I know this thing does a ton, and I'm not proclaiming to be a financial calculator whiz here. The only buttons I really care about are the buttons like literally right here, this row right here. The N, that's the term, okay? That's the term I'm working with. Let's see if I can do this. I disappear behind it. The term, the next one is the I, that's my yield. You'll see I calculate a lot for yield. The next one over there is present value. That's the amount of money that I have in the transaction or in the deal. The PMT, this is the payment, the monthly payment. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh, I gotta turn it back on. The power shut me off. Sorry about that. The PMT, that's my payment. And the FV, well, the FV is my my future value. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of the different numbers here. So let's go plug in that very first deal. Remember, I sold it for 100 months, and I bought the property for $4,000. So let's just plug in the 4,000. We're just going to hold it right here. I'm not going to plug it anywhere. Now, the $4,000, if I never got any like investment back on it, such as a down payment, for example, then it would just stay the $4,000. But I did get a down payment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce my initial investment by the down payment so I can really look at how much money I have in this deal. And I have $100 on the down payment. So the amount of money that I have in the deal is actually $3,900. Now, on the financial calculator, this shows up as a negative number. And the reason it's going to be negative is because that was a cash outflow. Remember, it left my pocket and went to somebody else's pocket. So it's going to be $3,900 negative. I'm going to plug that into the present value button, that PV button. Now, the FV, this means future value, and I'm going to get rid of the future value for now. We'll talk about that future value later, but for now, I just want it to be zero. And what that means is that when this guy pays off his note to me, his balance will be zero, right? If he still had a balloon payment at some point in time, well, we could calculate that to calculate our yield on a balloon payment, but there is no balloon payment because when he ends it in 100 months, his balance will be zero. If it goes well. Now, let's look at the payment. I said that he was going to pay me $100 a month, and that becomes a positive number in that payment field because that's money coming back to me. And you really can't see, I don't know if you can really see it, but at the top up here, you'll see like a red line, a red arrow going down where it says 100 up at the top. There's like a red arrow going down, but then you'll see the up arrow going up. That's saying that those are the series of inflows coming in and the one red arrow was going down. So to calculate my yield on this thing, all I have to do is hit the yield button, that second button. And when I do that, it tells me that my yield on this particular transaction is 27.6%. So 27.6% on this investment. So think about this one for a minute. If I were to take $4,000 or $3,900 and I went and put it in a mutual fund that paid me 8%, well, it's not going to yield the same amount. Here, let's do the math here. Remember, I'm selling this property for 100 months at $100. So right there, we know that's $10,000. Plus it was another $100 for the down payment. So the total that I'm collecting on this is $10,800. So here's what I want you to see the power of the financial calculator. Watch this for a minute. So just remember, I'm collecting from this person $10,100 over the life of that loan. But what if over that same time frame, over that same 100 months, I only made 8% on my money and I did not get any monthly payments, none. So I take the $3,900 and I put it in a mutual fund, for example, put it in a mutual fund that's going to pay me 8% a year for the next 100 months. And I hit the FV button, the future value. Notice that now it's worth $7,500. See the power there? Like the power of getting money on a regular basis? Because now I can take that money again and redeploy it to go buy some more of these assets that's going to produce more cash flow for me. Now, 27.6% sounds good. Like, I don't know, would anybody here, well, maybe you guys would, but I don't know, some people would be like, I'll take the 27.6%. I mean, today interest rates are zero, they're flat. You're going to be lucky to make any money from the bank. So everything that you are going to do is going to be from forced appreciation. Now, when I looked at this, I did not know how long I was going to have before I was unemployed. I didn't know. And I didn't even know if I was going to be unemployed. I just knew that it didn't look good. It did not. It was bad. The writing was on the wall. And so I looked at it and I thought to myself, okay, I've got 24 months to go. If I can just make it 24 months, can I use the power that we see in this financial calculator? Can I build this business so that I can walk out of here and never have to have another job? I didn't know if I could do it or not. And the challenge here was that when I looked at this number, 27.6%, I was disappointed with it because I needed the numbers to move faster for this. In finance, there's a thing called the rule of 72. And what that rule of 72 means is that if you were to take 72, the number 72, and divide it by the interest that you're earning. So let's go back over to our financial calculator here. So if I take the number 72 and I divide it by 8% that I would get in a mutual fund, that means every 9 years I'm doubling my money. Okay, that's the way the stock market works. You have good years, bad years, but on average it's about 8%. And now my financial advisor told me this, like 6%. So I don't know. I thought I would go by 8%. Now, what if I was making 27.6%? Well, if we take that 72, the rule of 72, and divide it by 27.6%, well, that means I'm going to double my money every 2 years. So let's think about this for a minute. Let's use our financial calculator here to do a little bit of thinking. And this is what I was doing in my office one day. This is what really woke me up, because I said, I'm never going to get to where I need to be. This is an endless battle. So here's what happened. Here's what I did. I sat down and I said, okay, look, I got 24 months to go. 24 months to go. Just pretend I got 24 months to go. And if I earn 27.6% on my money, and I'm starting today with $12,300 of capital that I've deployed, and if that money just earns me 27.6% like it did on the first deal, sorry, that should be a negative. Negative, there we go. Well, how much is my future value going to be? So in 24 months from now, how much capital will I have been able to deploy? And this is where the future value comes in. How much capital could I deploy? So future value, boom. Holy cow. That means I'm only going to be able to deploy $21,000. You see, it's slow. It's slow. Then I realized, okay, well, what if I was able to increase my yield? What if I was able to go from 27.6% to, let me just say, I'm going to double my money every year? Is that possible? Well, I thought it was possible, but what would the outcome be if I was able to double my money every year as opposed to every 2.6 years, something like that? So we bring back the financial calculator, and I said, okay, well, what if I was earning 72% of my money every year? And I've already deployed $12,300 here. So I just need to get higher yielding transactions, higher yielding notes, so that I can now drive out a year from now how much capital I've deployed. And so let's look at this. So what I did was, if I just hit the FV button, well, this is a different scenario now, right? It's still not fantastic, but see, it's a different scenario, because what happened here was, now I have $50,000. In 2 years, I've deployed the equivalent of $50,000. Now you might say, well, I don't understand. How are you deploying this money? Remember, the money is growing for me. The money is growing because people are paying me on a monthly basis. So if I take that money and I redeploy it back out in another investment, and I keep the speed going, then I will be able to turn that money. There's a saying that says the velocity of money is more important than anything, like how fast you can move the money. There's also a saying that says money loves speed. And so if you want more money, if you're able to deploy it and turn it over quicker, well, it's that turnover that will allow you to continue to grow. And remember, on about $12,300 that I've deployed, I was producing a cash flow of about $400 a month. The problem was, or the opportunity was, that I still had one property available. And it happened to be for one that I needed, that I had, and I bought it for $700. And I thought I could get a decent amount of money for it, but I was scared. See, the other people, my competitors, they were selling these same properties for like $7,000, and I had magically bought it for $700. But I thought, man, if I could just sell it, even at a discount, for some cash, well, then that cash will then basically allow me to go buy more. I can go buy another one of those, and I can also go buy some of these other ones. So at the time, I had about $800 in my bank account, and I still had this one property. And sure enough, I went out and I was able to sell it for cash. And I remember I bought it for $700, but I sold it for $3,000. So now let's go over to our financial calculator again, and let's look at this transaction. Okay. So in this particular transaction, this one's a little bit different. It's structured a little bit differently, because if I still want to know my yield here, well, then you're going to be blown away when you see the yield that I get on this transaction. So here it is. I owned the property for about 45 days. Okay, it took me about 45 days to sell this property. Part of it was that I was scared because I didn't want it on terms, because I didn't have any more money. I didn't want to have to wait months and months and months. And I really wasn't in a financial position that I could go out and, go to the bank or go borrow money from somebody else or my retirement account. I was trying to reduce debt because I thought I was out of there. So I was scared. I sat on the property. So I sat on it for about 6 weeks, about 1.5 months. Now, I bought the property for $700. I've already said that, $700 negative. And I sold that property for $3,000. Remember, it was about 6 weeks there, so $3,000. So now to calculate my yield on this one transaction, I looked at it and I hit the yield button. And when I do that, you'll see it was 1,966%. 1,966%. There are billionaires that are running massive hedge funds that they only average 42%. And I'm earning 1,900% on this one transaction. I couldn't believe it. I was floored. But then I realized something. What I realized is that if I could just sell wholesale just one a month, that's what it was. It was a wholesale deal because I didn't sell it for the full retail. If I could just do this once a month, and I had this machine that would allow me to sell one of these a month, just one, where I was making 1,966% just one time a month, that would take my overall yield up, but it would do something else for me. What it would do is it would allow me to now have money coming in the door to go buy more. The rolling of the inventory, or the rolling of the capital. Keep going. Keep the money growing. I also was in a cool situation too, because I had a good paying job. I was scared, but I didn't have to take any money out of my company. I could redeploy every single dollar on the mission to try to get to the point that I could retire. That's the goal, right? So look at what happened here. Remember, I sold 4 properties for $100 down, $100 a month, and now I had another $3,000 coming in the door, but I made a $2,300 profit. So if you take the $2,300 profit, if I just did this once a month, if I just made $2,300 a month from this wholesale deal, plus my notes, and I grew the note portfolio every month, well, all of a sudden, every month, I'm giving my business a raise in profit. Think about that one for a minute. So let's look at it. What would happen? What would happen to the business if all of a sudden, now remember, I only had 23 months to go because I'm going down. I didn't know how long I was going to have, but I knew I needed to get to a lot of money deployed. So how are you going to do it? 23 months to go. And what happened was I had $12,300 deployed. So that's my negative number. My goal was still to earn that 72%, and that 1,966 deal, it sure helped get me to make up for the first couple ones that I did that were not too good. But now I want you to see something. What would happen if I was able to redeploy $2,700 a month coming in the door? How did I do that? Remember, I'm going to make $2,300 a month wholesale on a property, cash, and I'm going to have my note portfolio growing at $400 a month, bring me $400 a month, and every month it's going to go up. That's the concept. So in this next month I went through, all of a sudden I had the $2,300 from the cash sale plus the $400 from the 2 notes, or the 4 notes that I had. So I had $2,700 coming in. Now I want you to look what happens to the amount of capital that I could deploy. Remember, where I put no more money in, I was projected to be all of a sudden at $50,000. But now because I've got money coming in the door that I'm able to redeploy, look at what happens. Wow. Now I'm going to be able to have $80,000 deployed in that same time frame. You see, my number's going up. And then the next month, what happened was instead of having 12,300 deployed, I now had an extra 2,700 on top of that. So now I had $15,000 deployed, 15,000. And I had 22 months to go. Let's look at what happens then. What happens then is 22 months. But then I got to pop that up. So it's not 2,700 a month coming in. It was then 2,900 a month coming in. See, I went down a little bit because I had to redeploy some of that money. But then in the next month, something cool happened. In the next month, I bought one of these properties for $3,000. And I put it out there. And a guy comes along and he says, hey, listen, I'll buy it from you for $15,000 cash. So all of a sudden, I made a $12,000 profit. That $12,000 profit went all right back to capital deployed. So now all of a sudden, when you bring up the calculator here, when you bring up this financial calculator, and you look at this and you go, okay, well, my cash deployed is now no longer 15,000, but now it's 30,000 because he gave me 15,000. I already had 3,000 in this number. Now I've got $30,000 deployed here. Still my 72 months, or 72 yield. Hold on a second, sorry. 22 months. What happened to my numbers here? What am I doing wrong? 30,000. Oh, you know what? Sorry. See, I'm redeploying. I know what I'm doing wrong. I'm redeploying the 2,900 every month. It's coming in the door, but I'm redeploying it. I'm not taking it out. If it was positive, I'd be taking it out. So I'm redeploying that number. Look what happens to my number now. All of a sudden, I'm projected to have over $250,000 of capital that I can deploy by the time I think I'm going to lose my job. The power behind getting the yield higher is incredible, because now all of a sudden, if you keep redeploying that money and you keep driving the profits back into the business, now all of a sudden you're sitting on a lot of money, a huge amount of money actually. Now, what happened here was I ran out of capital. I couldn't keep up. I was buying more properties than what I could keep going. And I didn't want to stop buying the properties. So what I did was I found myself in New York City one night for work. And I was looking and I was trying to think, okay, like I've got to be able to sell these things, these notes. I'm creating these notes. And I was working through trying to get people to find people that would buy these notes from me, at least buy some portion of the notes from me. And I was calling people and I'm like, hey, listen, I got this contract, a land sale contract. They're like, oh yeah, we buy those. And I'm like, fantastic. Like, how does it work? And they said, well, what's the value of the house on it? And I'm like, there's no house on it, brother. It's a land sale contract. And they're like, no. We have to have a house. And I'm like, it's a land sale contract, man. I was naive. I didn't know that you could sell a house with a land sale contract. You can, by the way. I didn't know that. So that's what they were looking to buy. And one day I found myself in New York City. Every time I say that, I think of the peso commercial, peso hot sauce commercial from back in the day. I found myself in New York City and I had looked and I'm thinking like, there's gotta be some group here that does like note buying or something. I can go, there's a lot of money here. And sure enough, a couple of days, I was there like on a Thursday night, there was a meeting of note buyers, New York Note Buyers Club or something. I forgot what it's called. And what happened was I show up there and I walk in with my black book. This thing, look at this thing. I'll tell you what this is in a minute. I walk in with this big old book because I carried this thing around with me everywhere. Now, what I used to do, I don't do this anymore. What I used to do is every time I sold a property, I would print out all of the paperwork, all of it, the contracts and everything. And I put them in this binder in these nice little sleeves. Now, this one's from 2016, and this is just one of two from 2016. And I would carry these things, and in here, I would calculate the yield on every single transaction. I used to joke that some people collect baseball cards and put them in these sleeves. Some people collect Star Wars cards and put them in the sleeves. I collected notes. I'm sitting there, and I bring my big book, my big black book, to the note buyers meeting. And you walk in, it's at a hotel in Manhattan, and there's these round tables. Think of it like a banquet facility. It's like these round tables. And what happened was, I'm sitting there, and the guy gets up who's going to run the show that night, and he says, hey, here's the way it works. If you have a note to sell, then come to the front of the room, or line up on the left side, actually. Line up on the left side. And what will happen is you'll line up, and I'll give you a number. So you know those restaurant numbers where you get the little number tag on there, and you just sit there and watch, and like put it, and they come to your table with the food. You would grab one of those, and then you would go to the podium and you would present. And at the podium, you would say, I'm Scott. This is what I have, and I was number 6. I'm number 6. Then you would sit down, and he would open up the room to people, so that it was almost like a speed dating for note buyers. So the first guy gets up there and he says, hey, I sold my condo on the Upper East Side. It's a co-op. I got this amount down. This is the note balance on it. It's over 36 months. The buyer has an 800 credit score, and I'm looking to sell, 4 months of the note payment to do whatever. I'm number 1. And the number 2 guy gets up there, and he sold his business in like the Wall Street district on an owner finance note. And he was looking to sell a portion of the note so that he could move to Florida or do whatever. And that guy had a 780 credit score, something. And that's number 2. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm about to tell these people that I buy land and I sell it to people, and I don't know what their credit score is. And they didn't buy something for $1 million or $250,000. They bought an asset from me for, say, $8,000. And I got like $100 down. What am I going to do? This is craziness. I put my number down, and I was bolting to the door. Think of the RIA meeting. Remember I told you the RIA meeting? I was bolting to the door there. I was exiting. The problem was that the guy that was running the meeting was barricading the door. He was leaning up the door, standing up against the door, doing this thing, listening. And I didn't have the confidence, the desire to say, excuse me, I'm out of here. I didn't want to talk to him about it. So I went back to my table, and I sat down at the table, and I took my notebook, my notebook, and I laid it flat. I was embarrassed. Nobody wants this stuff. You kidding me? Run, brother, run. The meeting gets over. They said, okay, speed dating session. And I grab my notebook, and I start to walk to the door, and the lady sitting next to me says, wait a minute. And I stopped, and she said, you went up there. I said, I did go up there. She said, but you didn't present. I said, you're right, I didn't present. And she said, why didn't you present? What do you have? I said, well, I have this. And I start opening my notebook, and I start telling her what I do and what I've done. And her husband, turns out she's a teacher, he's a CPA, and I'm telling them what I've got. And they're listening to me. I look up, and they're listening to me, Scott. They're listening. And all of a sudden, this courage comes up, and I said, would you like to invest in some of these notes? And the husband says, no, absolutely not. No way. No, that's ridiculous. We wouldn't do that. Talk about devastated. But I said, can I get your email address and I'll send you some information? And the guy said, sure. So every month I would send them information. I would send them an update on my note portfolio. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And after about 3 months of struggling financially to like build this thing and running out of money, what happened was I emailed him one day and I said, I have a note that you will be interested in. Can I call you? And he replied back, yes. And I called him and I said, hey, listen, I have a note. I sold the property. You know what I do. And I sold this property for $7,200. And I need to try to get about $2,000 out. So what can we do? And he said, well, what's your yield on it? And I said, my yield on this thing is around 50%. And he said, how many months do you want me to buy? I said, 12 months. The payment's $200 a month for 12 months. Can we do something? And he said, well, what's the interest rate? What's the yield? And I said, 8%. He said, no. I said, why? He said, how much are you making? I said, 55%. He's like, I need to be like 30 to 55%. So what did I do? I went over to the financial calculator here. I grab out the financial calculator and let's see what this looks like. So what this looks like is this. If I had a note that was paying me, it was paying me $7,200. I'm sorry, it was paying me for 72 months. No, that's not right. It was paying me for 36 months, and it was paying me $200 a month. So every month for 200 months, every month for 36 months, I was going to get $200 a month. I was into this deal for $2,000. I was into this thing for $2,000. I'm gonna put the 200 positive there. So my yield on this thing, I got it wrong. I'm sorry. It was this. I have messed up. It was $100 a month for 72 months. There we go. It was $100 a month for 72 months. And that was my 57% there. So what happened was he said, look, I'll buy 12 months from you. I still want my $100 a month. And I want 25%. So I plugged in the 25% here. And what you'll notice is it is telling me that the negative here is $1,000. Now, if I rework this number a little bit, let me show you. If I say, hey, I'm going to pay him $100 a month for 12 months, you'll see that my positive here is $1,000. It means I get $1,052. And I said, hey, look, this is what it works out to on the financial calculator. You know, I can't get my $2,000 that I need to get out of the entire deal. But, you know, do you still want to do it for $100 a month? You're only going to make $150 on this thing over the course of a year. And he said, yeah, I'm going to do the deal with you. I said, by the way, why are you only doing this deal if you're only going to make $150 over the course of the year? And he said, because I want to add zeros to this thing. I want you to buy more notes. I want to buy more notes from you. So we're going to buy one to see how it goes, but then we're going to add zeros to this and they're going to get bigger. If you perform like you say you're going to perform, then I'm making good money and then I'll do bigger deals with you. I said, oh, I see. So yeah, I was able to sell this thing and he ended up buying another note from me, which ended up being my $2,000. And it wasn't the $2,000 on the one deal. I had to give up 2 deals to do this. But I want you to think about it this way. I want you to think about this aspect of it. I now had a note because remember, I sold the property on 72 months and I sold to the note buyer 12 months of that payment. And I now had 60 months of remaining cash flow coming in. So that remaining cash flow that I had coming in, I only had $1,000 invested in it. And I received $6,000. So my yield was actually much higher. So when you go back and you calculate the yield on this thing, when we go back and look at the yield here, so if I had it for 60 months and I was into the deal because I was into it for $2,000, he gave me $1,050 for the notes. I was only into this thing for that. I was still going to get my $100 a month. Look at my return now. 126%. So I actually did much better on the yield by selling the first 12 months of the note payment than if I would have held on to it. And it always hurts because I wanted that $1,200 because I was on the mission to get out of my corporate gig. I had to get out of it. But I also needed more properties. I needed to keep growing the amount of capital that I had deployed. So it was like, well, I'm going to do this and it will reap benefits in the end. And that's the way I really thought about it, is if I could go around the scoreboard or the monopoly board, buying up these properties, buying them up, what will happen is I will be able to go at some point and stop having to transfer that cash flow to somebody else. And I'll be able to keep the cash flow to myself. Today, back then there was no marketplace to sell these notes. Today, there is a marketplace that we created. It's people like this guy that I just told you about, and his wife and his friends and other people that we've developed along the way. And there is a marketplace that you could go to and deploy or get capital for these notes. And I just put it in the chat there. You can go to tlfolio.com and you can sell a portion of your notes. They will only buy 12 months, by the way. They're not going to buy the whole note from you, but they'll make you an offer. It's a cash offer there where you can go and do this. And it's money that I invest in notes sometimes, but other people will invest in notes as well, or even accounts that we manage will do it. TL folio means the land folio. Other people think it means something else. It really just means the land folio, but it's there. Something bad happened on my plan. It didn't go it was going great. It was going fine. And I was on track to beat the 24 months. I was on track to be able to replace my income in 24 months. But the problem was that on February 10th of 2016, this happened. That's right. Hertz decided to cut out the IT jobs. They outsourced them to IBM. 85% of the IT team was sent packing, and I was sent packing as well. And I don't know if you caught the headline that said, some will retain their job. Well, some people did retain their job, not all. And I can assure you that I was not in the group that was going to be retained, not as a VP. So basically, I had fallen short. At that point in time, I was still months away from being able to have the capital deployed so that I could have the passive income deployed so that I could just basically retire. Now, they made the announcement and I felt really good about what I had done. I felt really good because I had come a long way. I was just a little bit short. And they said, you know what? You can stay for 45 days. You stay for 45 days. And I went back to the financial calculator. Can I make it work in 45 days? Can I keep deploying the money for 45 days? And that 45 days would get me a little bit closer, especially if I tried to wholesale a few more. And the whole goal was to have a certain amount of capital deployed before I exited. And remember, I thought I had 24 months. But at this point, I was 17 months into it, or 16 months into it, approaching the 16th month. And I kept deploying capital. And about 5 days after that announcement came in, I get called to the HR team's office. And they said, hey, listen, here's the deal. You get a nice severance package. I was like, what? He said, yeah, you're gonna stay on the payroll for a while. You don't have to be here. You don't have to be here. But you're gonna be on the salary. You're gonna get a salary. You're gonna get your paycheck every 2 weeks, and your health insurance. A nice one, a very nice one. And all of a sudden, I realized that in fact I had not fallen short. I had came through, and I was able to keep deploying the money without having to take it out yet to pay my salary. I actually was able to get ahead of it, thanks to the severance and thanks to the other stuff that was there, the other parts of the package. So the goal here, or the thing I want you really thinking about, is when you're thinking about yield and you start to make financial decisions based on yield, when you start to think in advance of, well, this is the yield that it's going to generate, all of a sudden it gets rid of all the other shiny objects out there. Let me give you an example. One of the things I hear all the time, and I get hit with this all the time, is, oh, wouldn't you like to invest in an apartment building? it's going to pay you 20% cash on cash. And I look at it and I go, ooh, 20%, that's pretty good. And then I run over to my financial calculator and I go, well, what am I making today? Oh, 70%? Forget the 20%. I can't do it. It's not that I can't do it financially. It's like, I don't want to do it. Someone the other day came to me and they said, hey, listen, we're going to do this deal. It's going to pay you 25%. And I'm like, I thanks, but I don't want 25%. I want 72%. And I think that's really when you start to have that clarity and you start to know that number, all of a sudden the world gets a little bit different, because all of a sudden you realize that there are investments out there that will pay you much more money, but you got to think through it and deploy it. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And with that, I want you to take action. I want you to go figure out this financial calculator, go mess with it, think forward with it, think what your future could be like with that future value button. Think about the transactions that you want to do and weigh them against each other. And you know what? You'll get there too. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And with that, I appreciate you being here tonight, and I'll see you next week. Take care.